Well, let's talk a little bit about the UN Millennium Development Goals, or one of them, and one that you mentioned a minute ago, the midwifery program,
Right.
which really struck me. As we look at the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, the 8 Millennium Development Goals are very measurable. They are logical goals, are quantifiable. We can see if we're achieving them. We're two-thirds of the way through the process right now.
Right.
And I know one of them is a goal to improve the situation for reduce the infant mortality rate and provide better services, maternal services. And you mentioned the Midwifery Modernization Act. How does that, could you go into a little more detail on that, on what it's about and how it will help achieve that?
Well, I think that even though the United States is a very advanced country, in certain circumstances, there's still a need for attention to improve our health care. And, our current president has demonstrated that. And because of that, I believe that the governor is responding to his state by introducing this act. And I believe that he will address the issues with pregnant women.
And of course, this is an issue in the developing countries. We see on the video that's running right now that many countries, in fact, every country is probably working in this area to make improvements. And it's not just endemic to us or the concerns that we have in the United States. So there are certainly a lot of efforts going on around the world. So could you go on a little more? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off on the Midwifery Act. But
Not at all, not at all. And in reference to women, there's a lot of women out there that choose not to go the traditional route by going to a hospital and giving birth. Some want to do it at home. Some want to deal with a doula, but unfortunately they don't have the resources, or they're not able to do so because that individual who's providing the service needs to get permission from a doctor. So I believe that this act would help alleviate some of those obstacles for women to pretty much embrace different options in bringing a lovely little baby into this world.
Exactly, yes. Meron, were you going to comment on that?
No, I was just...
Okay, right. This is an extremely important topic.
Yes.
And it's one that we all should be concerned about, and we are concerned about it. Well, we talk about the state of New York, the government of New York, and over the years we've seen that every state, all 50 states, all 50 state governors, they are all involved in international relations. Every state is involved exporting to the international community. They're concerned about environmental situations around the world, transportation, what have you. The state legislatures are starting to get involved in this too. I would imagine New York State, especially with the United Nations being in New York City, which makes it the international capital of the world, because you have the 192 countries that come to New York to come under one roof to try to resolve their problems peacefully. I would imagine New York State's involved perhaps a little more internationally than a lot of other states with different agreements and memorandum of understanding and that type of thing.
Yes, New York State does have the the opportunity to host United Nations, but as the governor has shown, it is a very difficult time. We're dealing with a budget that is severely in a deficit, and he's had to make a lot of difficult decisions in terms of cutting costs, very difficult and unpopular decisions. Even so, he has been an incredible host to the international community, and part of my role as Chief of Protocol is to facilitate when heads of government and heads of state seek his audience for a courtesy call. And he has been a great host. He recently hosted the Queen of England. Last year, he and the First Lady hosted the Prince and Princess of the Netherlands. So it's been an interesting time in terms of, even though New York State is going through its fiscal difficulties, that in terms of from an international perspective, he has never lost sight that that is an important sector and an important role.
And it's certainly a very difficult time for all, well, not all, there are about 3 or 4 states in the United States that actually have a surplus, but it's a very small number.
Well, we need
to
get some of that surplus.
Right. It's a tough time financially in the United States and in many parts of the world. So these things are coming into consideration. I remember years ago, and this has been quite a few years ago, and there may be new studies out, I haven't seen one lately, but I remember, I think it was Mayor Giuliani, when he was the mayor of New York City, had done a study as to the effect of the United Nations in New York. Because a lot of people were saying, well, we spend so much, I think it was $30–40 million a year on services, and Mayor Giuliani did this study. If I have the right mayor, I may be wrong on that, but the study came out and showed that the city of New York earned over $3 billion a year, and this has been many years ago, $3 billion a year from what the diplomats and the employees here at the United Nations pumped into the economy. And the United Nations was the third largest employer in this area, which is quite a large employer.
Yes.
But it provides a lot of economic revenue into the community, but also the most important thing is it brings the leaders of the world together to deal with these problems such as climate change, war, to deal with poverty, and to focus attention on them and to hopefully resolve these problems peacefully. But that's the strength of the United Nations.
Absolutely.
Yes.